and welcome back to the Fit for Business and Life podcast. The Fit for Business and Life podcast is brought to you in partnership with Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Body Network, improving the performance and transforming busy and overworked professionals, business owners, consultants, and their teams to become fitter, happier, and more confident. The Fit for Business and Life podcast is all about sharing passion, knowledge, and expertise around business and personal performance. From our hosts, myself, Martin Sharp, a 30-year change maker in businesses large and small, along with lots of special guests sharing their knowledge, their know-how, and their expertise in making changes in business and in themselves, featuring inspirational stories, insights, tips, and practical knowledge, bringing more healthier, happier, and higher achievement to your world. So for today, we've got a special guest. This is Rik Stevens, founder of the Mentally Healthier and known as the Calming Chaos Coach. He brings a wealth of experience from 32 years in the British Army and the London Police Force. Having seen impact of highly stressed roles firsthand, Rik now dedicates this expertise to empowering individuals and businesses to overcoming stress, anxiety, and negative patterns through personalized coaching in nutrition, fitness, and mental wellness. So please welcome to the stage, Rik Stevens. Hello, Rik.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for the intro.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And then, wow, what a big intro is that? I mean, that's some feat, is that? I mean, 32
when
years.
You get on in age, you get more and more behind you, don't you? So yeah, it's just a reflection of life.
I know that feeling. It's when you get into the point where now you're counting experience in decades, or you're counting friendships that you've had in decades and things. You're thinking, where did that time really go? I mean, I don't know about you, but I still feel like I'm in my 20s. It's ridiculous. So what do you feel? Where would you gauge yourself?
I was always in the sixth form group at work for my 30 years. You know, there's the sixth formers. I'm always sort of 18 to 20-year-olds. And my son, who's now 24, said, when do you start feel like you're a grown-up? You never do inside, really, do you?
Yeah, I have this same conversation with my wife a few times. And she says that I've got no idea what I want to be when I grow up. It's so true. You kind of go through things thinking, everything is going to be better tomorrow. Suddenly everything is going to become clear. You have this magical epiphany moment where you become an adult. But actually, I don't think that really, really happens.
No, not at all. I mean, last year I retired from the police, a 30-year service without in the military. And it's like, that's 30 years just gone. So a reflection of that.
It is, and that's a fair chunk of life, and a lot of experience comes from that. And I can imagine there's a lot of positive experiences. I mean, obviously, part of your introduction kind of tells us a little bit about the negative experiences, but just give us some of the positives. What's kind of, if you were having to highlight maybe 2 or 3 really big positive experiences, things that that carried you through and made the person you are today, what do you think they would be?
It's a reassurance in humanity, really. Joined the army in 92 to 97. Initially went to Germany, and you're just lumbered amongst all different parts of the nation. So I've worked with Geordies, Scots, people from all over the country, and each have got their own take on life. And all the guys from Newcastle, the Light Dragoon Regiment, they were just jokers all the time, mucking about. And the guys from Scotland, they're a lot more shut up or I'll hit you type of people. So you learn people skills because you're just mixing with different communities all the time. And then going to Northern Ireland and Bosnia, you see people going through the troubles and all the political side of it. But the people that are there living it are just getting on with life and just making do with what they do. And it's quite reassuring to see that.
I like that viewpoint, and I'm 100% agreeing with you on that. I think especially in media these days, there's such a emphasis on all the negatives, and I think you can almost get a very skewed view of what humanity really is. And I think while there is a negative part of the world, I think there is actually so much positive in the world as well. And probably, I don't know, I'm making this statistic up, but it feels to me that 99% of the people that I go out and speak with and meet on the street, etc., they are really good, decent, honest, hardworking, beautiful people, really, people that you're quite happy to spend time with. And it's only that smaller, maybe 1% that are those that you're thinking, that's not the people I would like to deal with.
That's the whole trouble with policing. Over time, I keep telling this story, over time you lose contact with your friends, your close friends, because for 30 years, the initial 10 years, people are going, are you coming out this weekend? She's like, well, I can't because I'm on early tomorrow. I'm working, because you're working them 24-hour shifts. So you lose contact. People stop asking you to come out, and you just have a smaller core of friends. But most people you mix with are other police officers. And we see the downside of life. I mean, if you take me to central London, I see all the den of iniquity, all the drug dealers and other little things that are going on in the background. But as a tourist going to London, you see Big Ben and all the great things. So it's what you sort of cast your eye at. But what I've learned, especially after the last couple of years, is looking outside of the police, looking at my next chapter of life. You start meeting these people, and they're amazing people from different walks of life, and they just want to be genuine and be with you and help you. And that's just a really reassuring thing for me in humanity. Again, it's just, there are lovely people out there.
Yeah, it makes me smile when you say about you go in looking with the eyes that you've kind of been trained with, and it kind of reminds me of when I was in the power industry at the back end of the 90s. I was sent down to Dagenham Power Station, just outside London. That's exactly the look you should have on your face. And the general manager there, he gave me direction by burnt out cars. So soon I came off the A10. And you kind of turn up at this power station, which looks more like a fortress. I mean, these have got like huge concrete high walls, tons of the kind of barbed wire over the top of them. You're thinking, oh my God, where on earth have they sent me? It looks like some film set from Mad Max or something, more than a power station. But again, people that are working there, great people to actually be involved with. Really friendly, really nice. They were quite happy to like just get involved with what you were doing. Nothing was too much of a problem. Do you want a cup of tea? Well, get things sorted out with you. So again, looks can sometimes be very deceiving.
Very much.
Yeah. So let's have a think about, again, we've talked a bit about the positive side. We talked about the good bit, the humanity piece. But actually, let's look at some of those kind of negative sides, because obviously you've kind of experienced some of that stress, some of that burnout, some of that kind of real anxiety kind of problems that are still evident, not only just in the forces and the police service, but actually sort of becoming more epidemic across most businesses.
Very much so. I'm at the moment, I help emergency services with hypnotherapy and just mental welfare coaching. There's a wellbeing group I'm part of. All the emergency services are going through it, but like you say, looking at businesses as well, it's just there is lack of money, lack of understanding, and it's sad that it's all getting burnt out. But as policing, so my policing started in the Metropolitan Police in '97, and I was sent to a nice little place in London called Brixton, which is along the lines of Dagenham, really. It's a very tight community, but it was very anti-police at the time. So that made my team, the policing team, very close. And we sort of were listening out to where everybody was in the town. If they come across, then we can help out quickly. So that made a really good work mix, because we were very tightly gelled. But going out into and dealing with policing, there's a lot of animosity towards police officers. So you're always looking over your back and making sure you and your colleagues are safe. And then if things had gone wrong in London, then they just pull from whoever's spare on the boroughs until they get the resources in. So the policing is always throw more people at a problem. And it's understandable in a way, because they can't say when that problem is going to happen. If it's spontaneous violence or some sort of critical incident happens, there's no telling when that is. So it's that reassurance of just pull more people in, and it's just we all step up and did our job, because that's what we do. But sometimes it can be 18-hour days, and then you're back on it. You're finishing, started at 6 in the morning, you're finishing at 11, 12 at night, but you're back on at 6 in the next morning. And then there's a lot of pressure, especially nowadays, that officers, if you don't turn up, there is nobody else to turn up. So, if I think, oh, I'm really tired, I'll just lie in the morning, there is nobody going to make my space. And then that's letting my team down, that's letting the community down. There's a lot of pressure just to keep turning up. And unfortunately, that's what's burning a lot of the emergency services out.
Yeah, no, and I recognise that. I mean, my background isn't from the forces, but I do recognise exactly the same kind of things happen inside businesses as well. I mean, especially large corporations. I always, what was the analogy? It was the savannah, wasn't it? Was the analogy. So you kind of go into these open plan offices, and you can almost tell what the organization's like by actually how the desks are arranged and who sits where. And nearly every organization, it was the same. You'd have generally people were in the middle, kind of doing the work, etc. And you'd have the management teams around the outside. So it's almost like having the lions and the gazelles from the savannah there. And it creates this kind of friction, this worry, because it's like everyone feels like they're constantly being watched. Everyone feels like, what's going to happen next. And like the other side, I mean, you were saying about doing 18-hour days. And again, that's almost become a symbol of honor for some kind of organizations, where it's the number of hours that you do. Oh yeah, I did a 12-hour day, and I do it so 6 days a week, etc. Oh well, I do 18-hour days, and I do them 7 days a week, and I'm in before the boss and I leave after the boss and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of toxic nature, I mean, I would hope actually by the time we've evolved this far would disappear. But I think in many respects it kind of did for a little bit over COVID, but then it's kind of started to re-emerge a little bit more as people are now starting to say, actually, no, we want you back in the office, we want you doing this, we want you doing that. And actually there's a kind of level of trust, that level of kind of well-being's kind of been eroded a bit as people kind of went through that process. So I can see absolute parallels between what you're kind of doing. And again, this kind of helps when you're thinking about how you're working with bigger businesses as well.
Yeah, so going back to COVID, I thought, working, all my work is in central London. My last 15 years, I was an explosive search dog handler. So I was going to palaces, posh hotels and stuff like that. But working in central London, before pre-COVID, how busy it was. All the public transports were full. Rush hours were just gridlocked. And then COVID came by and people working from home, and I was still going into London. But it got me. It's like, these people have saved like an hour and a half travel into London, an hour out of London. That's 3 hours they've got back in their day that they're with their family. And isn't that an awesome thing? And initially I thought that is great. But especially within policing, there are a lot of stuff you could do at home, sort of the reporting side of things, but bosses wouldn't let their staff stay at home. There's a mistrust that, well, they're not going to do their stuff. But then it becomes, are you paying people to spend 8 hours at a desk, or pay people to get that job completed? And that's the balance. But I think now I understand that now that there's experience being lost, while you're making a cup of coffee, that little chat over the coffee about how to manage things, get things done, and that experience changing over it has lost. And I think there's got to be a balance, that we should be able to go into work, go to the office, but also stay at home. And, that work-life balance is important. It just shortens that day. And, 3 hours, for me to get into central London public transport, it's an hour and a half. And that's 3 hours a day I'm getting back that I could be with my family, looking after myself. So it's quite important.
Yeah, and I know that the commute time for a lot of people it's got to be a big consideration. And again, going back to my own experience, I spent 5 years working with a great organisation based in York, based on York Science Park. And as that kind of company expanded, what we needed to do is we actually had to have a London presence, because obviously kind of work we were dealing with, kind of clients we had. But actually, it took only 2 hours to get from York down to London. For most of it, it actually was better to just commute effectively in from York for those 1 or 2 days that were needed, or for the emergencies that are happening. So it's a big kind of impact and big commitment for people, and having to commute in and out on top of things. But bring it back to kind of that idea of like well-being and wellness and all those things, because these are terms that I think sometimes are overused. I think sometimes organizations have almost tainted it. It becomes almost like a tick box exercise in some respects. And I know this is something you have had experience with. So just explore that one. Tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are on how organizations are really tackling well-being as a real well-being, and actually where do you see that kind of line of abuse where actually it's now just become almost a paperwork exercise?
Well, lucky for this discussion, I've worked for the two worst employers you can ever imagine, the British Army and the Metropolitan Police. I started my well-being journey initially learning hypnosis, then mental welfare coaching, probably just coming out of COVID. A bit before COVID and coming out of COVID, I became more learned in it. And then I started to look at the posters all around police stations. They're everywhere, and it's like, oh, mental welfare and all of this. And then I actually read one, because they're always, I ignored them. And it was like, if you're feeling down, talk to a friend. If you're feeling really bad, see a doctor. If you're feeling suicidal, call the Samaritans. And to me, that broke my heart. It's like, what is this organisation personally doing to help you? I know in the teams and everything like that, we we'll support each other, but as a poster on a wall was a tick box thing that we're not really worried. Go to the Samaritans, they'll sort you out. And that, I think that's a very, very sad thing. And then there's a lot of at the moment police misconduct that's been sort of highlighted, and I'm not condoning drink driving or any sorts of things like that, but then you've got to ask, why was that officer drinking? What had led him to a drink problem that he's drinking and driving? And the police service is very reluctant to look into that, and it's sort of a can of worms. If they open it, then they've got to sort of sort it out. So from the worst case scenario, that it is just a tick box. They'll send you computer-based training, and it's no interaction. It's just, most of that is just press and return as quick as you can to get the training done. Whereas if you sat in the classroom and shared experiences and had a chat about it and had opened the discussions, then that's so much better for the person and the groups to learn what's going on. A lot of the guys I help, the police officers I help, is when they realise it's not just them. So they're going through sort of real bad problems, and the stress and the job sort of put them on misconduct boards for just minor misdemeanors. And it's like, it's not just you, the whole system is broken and nobody's taking responsibility of it. And then that, realizing it's not just you with this problem, sort of does release some of the pressure, and then I can help them in that bit more. But I think within all businesses, there's an expectation they look after your mental health, but it's how they do that. And I'm finding it very hard to get into businesses, speak to the right people to actually highlight what can be done. So I look at nutrition and just eating better. If you're going to stop that afternoon slump, a bit more production. If you're eating better, you're not going to be as sick as much. So there's things you can do that are really easy, and little sort of just advice to help mental welfare, sickness, and just workplace presence. So there's lots to be done, but it's how much commitment that each company has got. The bigger companies that they invest in their stuff, but the smaller companies, that are they aware that the long hours, as we said, that they do burn out the other end. I was one of those, when sort of president's visit or the big state visits, Queen's funerals, coronations, I was doing stupidly long days, 3 or 4 days in a row. And that's sort of it's got to be done because there was only so many of us that can work. But on the reflection, towards the end of my career, it's like, well, no, I'm not taking that overtime because I need some rest time as well. And there's got to be the balance and understanding from the bosses that people just can't keep turning up and working. They are human beings, and you just burn them out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you've touched on a whole number of great subjects there. And I think that whole piece of taking it back to, you're not alone. You're not the only person that's kind of suffering this. And whether that is a systemic problem, because some of them are, some of the systemic problems within organizations. And I think there is a responsibility of the organization to sort those out, definitely. But then there's also that kind of personal responsibility piece. And sometimes recognizing actually that other people go through the same things, you become empowered. You actually feel like you can make a difference. You can do something different. So you obviously touched on things like nutrition, which is really good. What other kind of things can people do to kind of take control back for themselves and actually start to address some of the things and almost empower themselves to become better?
I've got 3 main pillars, and I'm sure you'll sort of resonate with these, but eat better, move more, and think better. So I always say move more because I'm trying to get the people that are stuck on the sofa and not very active. And if you say you got to do exercise, that's them mindset, going to the gym. I'm not going to fit in my Lycra and stuff like that. But just moving more. So walking, stopping your car a bit further back, half mile short. So you've got to walk an extra half mile to work or further to your car from home, taking the stairs instead of lift. All those little things. If you move a little bit more today than you did yesterday, that's a win. And then eating better, reducing your sugars. I use myself as a test dummy. Reducing your sugars. I sleep better. My skin's better. I have more energy, which bizarrely sort of counteracts what people think about sugar. And then the ultra processed foods that are full of the bad oils, and that just causes inflammation in your joints and your system. So eating the right things creates more energy and gives you more energy to become you again. And then just stress. I turned off news probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I don't listen to the news. I might hear the headlines now and again just to see what's going on in the world, but especially the last couple of days. It's like I'd rather turn that off and not listen, because it's that adage of can I does it impact me? Can I change it? And is it true? So a lot of the things in the media at the moment, is it true? I'm reading a lot of things, and like people have said, have they? Is that true? Because a lot of the media stuff that's police are doing this, police are doing that. It's like, I can't really believe that, but they never give the other side of the story for the police officers to tell what's happened. So is it true in your head? And if it's, if you can't say if it's true or not, then just put it to the side. Can I change it? So the stuff that's happening in America about the trade, I can't change that. So, I'm aware it's happening. It's going to impact me, but can I change it? No. So it's, just focusing on more me, what's going on in my family, what's going on in my life, and how I can help other people that I connect with. So it's sort of turning off that mass media of negativity, as we said before, and just becoming a bit more positive. It's like waking up every morning, happy to be alive, getting on and doing your thing.
I love that. Love that, being able to just wake up every morning in that kind of positive state, because it's a choice, right? When you have a choice to wake up positive, we can wake up negative, and the fact that we woke up at all is actually a really good positive. And I think you kind of appreciate that as you get older.
On my feed, a yogic hero, it's a Sadhguru, and he says the first thing you should do in the morning: open your eyes, look at the ceiling, smile. Lots of people died last night, and I'm still here. So it's just carrying on, isn't it?
It is, and it's a crazy simple thing. And again, I think, again, I'm not being in the forces, but I do know people that have been, and simple things like just making your bed first thing in the morning, and then when you get to the end of the day, your bed's made for you already. And it's what did somebody describe it? Described it as you're thanking your future self, or you're helping your future self, or you're supporting your future self. So those little kind of things as well. So that actually, you're almost setting yourself up for success with all these little tiny habits that you kind of create. That actually then should be things that when you get to that moment and you've had a hard day and you're stressful, etc., you can come home and, if you've prepared your dinner, for example, and it's there ready for you. I mean, how amazing is that? You can go in and think, oh, wow, I was glad I did that this morning. Or if you, for example, simple things like you made your bed, I'm glad I did that. Or the night before, if you set your clothes out and things, so you don't have to think in the morning. It's just there for you. It's like, oh, thank you for doing that. Yesterday you were amazing.
My daughter's just learned to drive, and I'm from Ireland. You always have to reverse your car in case you've got to make a quick escape. So always reverse your car in. But it's also, you don't have to faff about when you leave. And my daughter is like, you got to reverse your car, and it's I can't. But now she's doing it. So, it's so much easier. Reversing a bit more trouble initially, but when you get back to your car, you're just away, aren't you? It's things like that.
Yeah, I do the same kind of thing. And again, for exactly the same reason, especially when, for example, I've got an engagement which might be down towards London, might be in Kent or somewhere like that. So I know I've got like a 4-hour, maybe 5-hour drive. It means getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And let's face it, even when you're used to this type of thing, 4 o'clock in the morning is not a nice time to get up. But I'm glad I kind of parked the car facing forward. So it means that actually it's one less thing to worry about. I can just get in the car, drive, and I'm in a safer position to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like that, and I love the fact that your daughter's already picked up on it. It's amazing sometimes how you can influence your children. You influence the people around you. I mean, there is the old adage about you are the sum of the people that you hang around with. But actually, you got to remember that that's the inverse as well. So you actually are the representation of the people that hang around with you as well. So what kind of influence do you want to be? Do you want to be a warning for their life of things not to do? Or do you actually want to be a shining light to say, this is the better way of doing things?
That's so true. I mean, so many police officers leave bitter. I'm going to stay on as long as possible. All of a sudden they're bitter and they make a big exit. Probably in every sort of business, that's the case. But I wanted to leave, police officers can retire at 55. We paid extra for our pension. So I could retire at 55. And I felt as I've done my time. I've done 30 years. But the last 3 or 4 years, like I said, I was an explosive search dog handler, a dog trainer, experienced person on the team. And I tried to share as much as that knowledge as possible. I didn't want to go bitter and have, no, this is my empire and I'm taking it with me. I wanted to give the younger guys that are following me all the opportunities that I have and the experience and just that little bit of knowledge. I'll just, whoever's taken it on, just passing on them little bits of knowledge and little nuggets of gold and those people to go to, or it's just passing on the experience. And it's, just sharing, like you're saying, being a positive light, positive beacon. And, you can either be Eeyore or Tigger. So, I tell people in my therapy, you can either be Eeyore or Tigger. You can be, oh my God, the world's coming in on me, or woohoo, let's bounce around the rooms off the ceilings, and try and be Piglet or Pooh in the middle. And that's a nice balance. But you decide which way you're going to go from there.
Fabulous. I've never heard human states being described by characters from Winnie the Pooh, but I love it. Actually, I think that works nicely. I love that kind of analogy. And again, it's interesting because obviously we've spoke a few times before, and I know a bit about your kind of background. And I remember you saying when you were coming towards the end of the time in the police force, obviously being a dog handler, you had they were signing you up for a certain number of years because obviously you're going to be with that dog, you're training the dog, and they're kind of being part of your team in a very intimate way for a long period of time. And towards the end, they were almost putting pressure on you to stay, weren't they? It wasn't kind of it wasn't a case of saying, no, this is your end date type of thing. They were almost like trying to encourage you, no, just take another dog on, go on, you want to, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I did take another dog on, but yeah, so the dogs generally retire about 8 years, between 8 and 9, depending on how fit they are. It's sort of my decision and the dog school's decision. But if it can keep going on, my first dog went on till 10. But you have to reapply. It was the only job left in the Metropolitan Police you had to reapply for it to get another dog. And I've been on the unit 10 or 15 years. I've trained dogs. I've got all this experience. And it's like, you should be asking me to stay rather than me apply. But they sort of went through this process. No, you've got to apply just in case Chase, the dog, goes sick. Then you run out a dog. We can get you off the unit. So it's, oh, man. And literally 2 weeks later that, we've got too many puppies. Can you take a puppy? So I took the puppy without interviewing or reapplying for my job. But yeah, and then they were sort of, well, can you just do a couple more months? Can you just do a couple more months to get this project done and stuff? It's like, and it got to me. It's like, no, I'm stopping. I've given my all since 1992 to the Queen of Country, King of Country now. So that is my time now, and I was really looking forward to it. I'm still looking forward to my time, my new chapter in life, and finding out what I can.
Yeah, and it's interesting how you kind of say you've had that hard split from no longer working in the police and the army, etc. But actually, what you've kind of done is you've then taken all those skills and you've said, actually, I still want to serve, because now you're trying to help the kind of the well-being, the burnout, the stress, the anxiety, all that side of it. So it's a hard yet soft kind of split by the sound of things. So again, you've still got this great passion inside of you to be able to still deliver and still be able to help those teams of people that need it, really.
Very much so. And I think no matter what business or career you're in, it's recognition. So if you go into your corporate way, you can understand them straight away. And for a police officer to sit down, I had one police officer after his sort of 7th night duty. So he's doing nights for 7 days in a row. And then he had an accident on the 8th day sort of thing. And he's like, oh, I don't know. I should have known. I'm like, man, you've done 7 night duties. Your head's in the clouds. You just become numb to the world because of everything that's going on. But that understanding straight away, and it sort of triggered him. It's like, oh, yeah, it's not entirely my fault. But to just sit down and know you've got another police officer or there's someone else in the same industry as you sitting at the other side that understand, you don't have to explain how you feel after 7 night duties. I've done that. Or like you say, getting up 4:30 in the morning for 4 mornings in a row. That on the 5th morning, that's when my wife would ask for all the things she want. Can I buy that dress? Because all I'd go is, yeah. And then sort of 6 weeks later, she's got this dress. Where'd you get that from? Well, you said I could buy it. So it's the little things, but police officers know that. And it's just, if you've got that recognition, they don't have to, if they go to another therapist, they've got to explain, I've done night duty and I've been up half the day as well with the kids and I was just tired. And you don't have to have the conversation. It's just, I'm with you, buddy, but let's change that and let's move on. So,
yeah, but I change that kind of narrative and then find the positive parts about it. I remember my dad used to work nights all the time as a postman, so I kind of felt his kind of pain and I saw exactly the same look on his face. When mean, you've done like a week. Yeah, you are a bit space, let's face it, and you don't have the energy that you'd really want to have. And don't get me wrong, I mean, he tried his hardest, but yeah, I kind of felt for him in those days. Although probably wouldn't have recognized it quite in the same way as I do now, because now I can look back and I can actually understand and appreciate the effort they put in to be able to do that for his family, and obviously with the work that he was doing. But I think as a child looking at it, I was just seeing him being tired and grumpy sometimes, and you kind of say, okay, it's Dad week to be tired and grumpy. You kind of square it off. You say that's okay, because the
That's
following
funny.
week he'll be okay because you're not on nights.
Funny you should say that. It's like if I was on nights, I didn't do that many within the dogs, but that was my grumpy week. And my missus would go, it's just Dad's on grumpy week. It's just smile at him, throw food at him, and just leave him be. So that sort of emotion. But I remember when my son he started work. I think he must have been about 20, and he'd done 2 back-to-back part-time jobs. He did 12 hours, and he came home once. He went, I've done 12 hours. I went, don't start. He went, no, how did you do it for so long? So, they suddenly realized that, wow, that, you were putting yourself out to help the family sort of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I mean, everybody kind of does it when they kind of have a family. All of a sudden, they are no longer the principal kind of focus of their life, and that means that they start to then looking at what can they do for the family? How can they actually make things work there? And it's a very similar tale that I'd suggest most people would come out with. I don't think there's many people that would say something different, because that's where your priority lies. It's about making sure that you're providing for that family, whether you're the man or the woman in that kind of relationship. It's exactly the same. Put that sacrifice in, and sometimes though it's a case of making sure you don't lose too much of yourself. And again, like you, I've worked with people who have kind of really put well and truly beyond the call of duty, would you say? There's one chap, for example, who was a project manager, who was dealing with things all around the world, large, big, multi-million pound programs. He'd have people who'd be dialing in from like Australia or Hong Kong, Middle East, US. I mean, we joked at one point, I thought any kind of meeting would have, there's at least one person in the pajamas. But that's what it was like. So the thing was, the business kind of just expected him to be available. And that meant that if you're getting someone from Australia calling you in the UK, it's it can be any time, day or night, and likewise from the US and things. But what he was doing is he was putting in more hours than actually was needed. And he was just, his performance dropped. He found he was becoming obviously grumpy, and things happen in family like that. But actually, he was becoming less and less affected, because he was taking longer to make decisions. It took longer for him to actually complete tasks. He found he was having more brain fog, etc. The lethargy and things. He started to feel bad in himself. He had constant pain and things, and just getting him to realize actually you cannot have a flexibility. You can still be flexible for your employer, but you need to also take the time back for you. So if you want to go out and go see what's happening with your daughter at school, maybe she's got a play or something going on, go do it. If you need to go see the doctor, go see the doctor. You need to take time out, but it might be that you have to reschedule, replan things around. And so one of the things I taught him was basically stick it in the diary, and you don't change yourself. Basically, you treat your own appointments as if they're as sacrosanct as anything else for the business. And that was kind of one of the biggest changes for him, was then he could start really putting himself first, where because he started feeling better, he started doing less of the things that were causing problems, things like having takeaways and taking everybody out for meals and things, because he felt guilty. He felt guilty. He was working all the time, so he was like trying to hyper make up for it by doing all these other things. But the flip side to that was then everybody in the family started feeling better, because everyone started eating better. And I know the moment that he really took it on board was when I got a text message through from him saying, I've just done the monkey bars with my boys. And I thought, he's got it. He's changed his life. And it's nice when you kind of get to that point where actually someone has changed life. They're taking things on board, and all of a sudden they are doing something different for themselves. And I'm kind of imagining the people you work with have exactly that same kind of moment, that moment where all of a sudden things just click. So it's a struggle, right? It doesn't happen overnight, but all of a sudden you get that one moment.
And that's my story, totally there. For 30 years, just phone me up, we need someone. So you're just rushing around or getting up early. And most of my time was sort of getting up at 4:30, being at work for 5:30, and doing things before any of the royalty or heads of state would be awake. So I didn't realise the impact of me. I've done it for 30 years, and I was fit, healthy. But having retired March last year, it got me till about September when I looked in the mirror. I went, "Man, you look well. You're awake. You haven't got these big bags under your eyes. Your skin looks better." So that's about 5 or 6 months before it had started to wear off, and it was a big change. Where I thought I was all right, but it had a serious impact. And then, like now, I enjoy going to the gym. I go twice a week for a good session, but they're non-negotiables. They're in my diary. So I'm weaning myself off being always on duty, always ready to deploy, always ready to go, to no, this is my time. And when my daughter, she's doing her A-levels, but when she comes home, I spend time with her, and we have conversations. Whereas before I would have been half asleep, sort of rushing about, make dinner, and then I've got to go to bed. There's things like that. But now, because I'm investing in my time as well as building my business, it's no, this is family time, and we're going to do that. So I'm very mindful of family experience as well, because for 30 years I put them sort of on the sidelines in a way. So I'm paying back now.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah. And you've got to, you got to be, what's the other adage? You've got to be selfish sometimes to be selfless. You can't, you can't fill somebody else's bucket up if your bucket's empty. That's the simple thing. So brilliant. I love it.
The stuff you asked, when I help other people, it's just giving them that time for themselves, especially the hypnotherapy. The police officers, they don't believe, trying to get police officers to believe in hypnotherapy and stuff like that, which is quite easy, really. But it's a lot of them have come out and they sort of analyze it and said, yeah, but I've just given an hour to myself and reflected on things, and it's been really helpful, because they don't take themselves out of whatever they're doing in their life for an hour and just to recharge themselves. And that's sort of what I give them. So
yeah, that's so powerful. I mean, just giving an hour to yourself, even if it's just to stop, rest, and relax. I mean, with our highly stressed, highly on lifestyles that everyone seems to have these days, I mean, they've been bombarded every moment with some form of media or ping, etc., and so much information that's being provided. It really does heighten that kind of stress response. So your cortisol levels spike, your adrenaline levels spike, etc. So even just taking that moment of giving yourself, you're giving your body the ability to enable its parasympathetic nervous system to get enacted and actually start to rest, recuperate, regenerate, relax, and become a better person. So yeah, I can see exactly how that would work, and I also kind of appreciate from their perspective. It might sound a bit woo woo to start off with, but actually, when you start looking at the basics, it's just simple things.
It's a really easy buy-in.
Mm.
Yeah, it's an easy buy-in for all emergency services. You ask them what's if it's a full moon tonight, what's the night duty going to be like? And they're like, well, all the mad people come out. And it's true. Full moon, that's a lunatic, isn't it? The full moon, you always get mental health problems and all sorts and it's mayhem. And so it's like, well, if you buy into that, why is that? If you buy into that, then why not give this a go? They're like, oh, right, yeah. So, it's an easy buy-in for that little twist there.
I love that one. I remember you telling me that one before, and it just brought a smile to my face at the same time. And it's the same in every industry. You have the same kind of problem. If you're in a business, when you get to month end, you got no chance. It's just crazy town in finance and HR, because everyone's trying to beaver around getting the numbers correct, etc., and presenting the board papers back and things. And that's what's going to happen. So you're going to get absolutely nothing done with them. So yeah, every single organization, every single business, every single piece of work that you do has these kind of cycles in them. And yeah, if you can kind of highlight that and say, well, actually, if you can see this happening, then actually, why can't that happen? It's a nice way to be able to give them a way out and a way in. Speaking of ways out and ways in, do you want to let everyone know just how they can actually get in touch with you, and maybe what you could do to help them?
Well, I've got two sort of strands to my business. The first one that I started, cptsdrelief.co.uk, is for emergency services for the burnt out. And I found, especially with police officers, the time they realise they've got they've got sort of troubles, is they're already on sick pay. That they've hidden it so much that the stress has got them. They're burnt out, and they're 6 months in, and they're on sick pay, and they haven't got a lot of money. So I'm not going to charge them loads of money, and I'm not going to earn my millions out of helping the emergency services. But it's something I'm passionate about, and I feel it's a service that they need, and we help them. So that's, if you're emergency services, you need to reach out to someone. I'm there for you, and it's just a cost covering exercise for me. But what I'm trying to do is mentallyhealthier.co.uk is going into businesses, or firstly going into businesses and trying to educate the business and the employees that a healthy, happy staff are more productive and more focused. So looking at diet, looking at movement, and looking at a bit of a mindset as well. So to how to understand how the stress manifests, how to reduce that stress, and how food can help you reduce stress as well. So that's my workplace package, is to go in and do an hour or 2 hour input to teach either the managers or all the staff about more well-being. And then recently, not doing earlys, lates and nights, I've realized that I can study and actually take on information. So I've done a nutritional coaching course. I've got a diploma in culinary medicine. So it's just understanding how just foods can help you with all sorts of chronic illnesses, aches and pains, or just becoming more focused and more healthy. So I'm now a nutritional coach as well. So either a one-to-one or just passing on that knowledge within businesses.
Fantastic. And again, I hope you every success both on your passion project and actually on your educational project. I think those are two really powerful things that can help a lot of people out there. And I do hope that people take you up on those offers and make sure that they do come and find the help and the assistance that they need. I will put all those details into the description, so don't worry if you've missed it when you were listening to the podcast, whether you were driving or whether you were just having a jog or whatever it was that you were doing. Maybe you just sat on the sofa listening this time. Then you will be able to find all those details in the description that will be around this podcast. And then you'll be able to get in touch and connect directly with Rik. So last thing for us to say is thank you very much, Rik, for your time today. And also a big thank you to all you guys for listening and taking the time out to listen to this episode of the Fit for Business and Life podcast. The Fit for Business and Life podcast is brought to you in partnership with Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Body Network, helping busy professionals and their teams become more happier, healthier and higher achieving in business and in life. If you'd like to join us as a guest or just get in touch to know more about the topics we've covered, then we'd love to hear from you. Simply email hello@sharpfitforlife.com. Once again, thank you for listening to the Fit for Business and Life podcast. Fit for Business and Life podcast is produced and presented by Wax Tie Limited. All copyright is applied.